Hello everyone and welcome back to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com for everything you need to fix your vehicle up. So you're probably wondering why the legend, Dr. Jerry Punch, is here right now. We're in the media room at the Bristol Motor Speedway, and this is part 3 of the Rusty Wallace stories. And we don't need Rusty because Rusty was knocked out where this story goes. So Doc, do we remember what year this was?
It was actually August of 1988.
I was here. I don't know why I was here. I think it was when I was just getting going. But so Rusty is in the Kodiak car.
Right. All right.
Barry Dotson's the crew chief. And we have a waging tire war. We have Hoosier and Goodyear.
Right.
You take it from there.
Well, it's Friday evening, and it's a late practice session because there's going to be a Busch Series race that night, a couple hours, and so not many people wanted to go out late in the heat in the afternoon. So there were 2 cars on the racetrack, Rusty and Dale Earnhardt Sr. What a shock!
That's a show.
So third lap by, Rusty's coming off turn 4, and I hear this, and I'm standing on pit road on the front straightaway, getting ready to interview Rick Mast, one of the Busch Series drivers. And we were going to wait till these guys run a couple laps and it gets quiet. We can do the interview for the race that night on television. I hear a crunch. I look up and I see Rusty's car has come off the wall in turn 4 and is spiraling upward his Pontiac Grand Prix like a punt, like a football. And then it hits on the nose and on its side and begins to barrel roll down the front straightaway. Now you think we're at Bristol, so how fast could they be going? But it rolled, and there's video of it showing it rolling. It comes to rest with the front of the car up on the pit wall, and the roof caved in about 20 feet from where I'm standing. So I literally run over there. I'm in my ESPN orange golf shirt, and I get to the window, and the roof is pushed down. The window net is pushed down, so I can't get the window net loose. And Rusty's got an open face helmet on, and he's slumped over in the seat. And there's blood trickling out of both sides.
I didn't know. I didn't know this part.
Yeah, and I look down. I'm an ER doc, a trauma doc. So I look down and I don't see his uniform moving at all. So he's not breathing. So I don't know why he's in respiratory arrest. At the time, I didn't know what had really happened. So I'm just trying to get to him. I can't get the window net. The roof is down. The bar is crunched. I can get my fingers through the net just enough to get to his jaw. His chin is forward. And I'm trying not to turn and pull his neck, but I want to pull his jaw forward to try to get an airway. I just get the edge of his jaw and pull it forward, and I see his uniform move about an inch. So I know I've gotten an airway there. Earnhardt, meanwhile, has slid his car to a stop on the track, runs out of his car, runs over and sees all the smoke billowing out of Rusty's car. He's yelling, "What do we do? What do we do?" I said, "Dale, we got to get this roof off. I got to get to him. He's not breathing." So Dale's screaming. Dick Beatty, who's the NASCAR series director, comes over, and I'm telling Dick, I got to get to him. So their equipment truck pulls up, and they're trying to saw the part of a bar so I can get in through the window net. And Dick takes his Winston Cup hat off and holds it in front of my face while I'm holding Rusty's jaw because I can't move, or else he doesn't have an airway.
And we don't want the grinding to get in your face.
All the grinding and the sparks and everything to burn me. So I'm holding that, they get it open, we get into Rusty, we get an airway, we put a backboard on him, we get the top of the car off, we lift him up, put him in an ambulance. He's coming to, he's a little groggy. We get in the ambulance and he's starting to breathe on his own. There was no doctor here that day, so I'm in there in my ESPN shirt, and the paramedic said, "What do we do, Doc?" He said, "Why don't you intubate?" It means put a tube in one bag. I said, "No, he's waking up, he's breathing on his own. Let's put IVs in both arms." And so I told Rusty to take a deep breath, and I did a brief, just a cursory exam while he's in the ambulance is parked on the front straightaway at the start-finish line. And so he's waking up a little bit and breathing on his own. I realize he's stable at this point in time. We don't know what injuries he's got, other injuries he may have until we get him to the hospital and do a scan and do a couple x-rays of his neck. So I come out of the ambulance, they take off and go to the hospital. About 2 hours and a half later, I'm on my headset. We're about 30 minutes from starting the Busch race. I'm on my headset walking up pit road, and I get a note, a call from the TV truck that said Rusty had called, the hospital had called for Rusty to the racetrack. They passed him through to the TV truck to tell me thank you for what I had done, and that he's going to be admitted overnight, but he's going to be okay. And so obviously that's great news. And so word spread very quickly in the garage area that Rusty was being admitted but was going to be okay. So we're like 5 minutes before the race starts, the Busch race, and Dale Earnhardt comes walking down pit road as I'm walking up by the cars gridded. He comes walking down pit road, walks right up to me and puts his finger in my chest and says, "Hey, did you hear about Rusty? He's going to be all right?" I said, "Yep, it's good news, and it's great news." And then Dale stopped and looked at me and said, "You probably saved Rusty's life today." And then he just paused and looked at me and says, "Why would you do that? Why would anybody do that?"
Oh my God!
and then he started smiling and stroking that big mustache, because Rusty and Dale, as much as they were competitors on the racetrack, they were big friends and buddies off the track. And once we knew Rusty was okay, Dale, that's typical Dale Earnhardt. He wanted to, hey, why would you do that? Why would anybody do that? Because they were competing for a championship. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the story is that Rusty gets discharged the next day. And we found out that his respiratory arrest was not from a traumatic head injury. It was from that knucklehead inhaled a ham sandwich right before he got in the car.
With mayonnaise.
Rusty does everything quickly, so he inhaled a ham sandwich, big bites, didn't chew it up, and as he was tumbling, part of that lump of that sandwich blocked his airway, and that's why he wasn't breathing. So the trauma wasn't, his airway not breathing wasn't related to head trauma, it was related to an obstruction, which meant he could be discharged the next day. He came back and ran the full cup race on Saturday night and finished ninth.
Yeah, so first of all, incredible. For me to see Dr. Jerry Punch here, I came around the corner and I'm like, oh my gosh, very seldom do I come down at year 2024 and see my people. I consider you my people. You're a legend, and everybody knows that. And we had a great time, and still here you are. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that I've learned. I'm going to say them, and then you comment on them. So we all know that my big brother Rusty is, it's where I get my hyperactivity. I'm just times 10. Rusty's super hyper. I'm more hyper. But I learn from watching, the people of age, or I just learn from anybody. Ever since I've been around my brother, he eats so fast, and we're hardly done with our food. And Rusty will say, "Okay, get up, let's go." And I'm like, we're only halfway through our food.
Yeah.
So because of that moment, I decided to make sure that if I eat before a race, I eat way before. In your opinion, you're a doctor. Us race car drivers, and want all the race car drivers to listen to this, we want to be ready to go for a long race. When should we eat our last morsel of food before we get into a race?
Well, I'm going to say no later than an hour before.
An hour.
Give yourself, because what happens is, when you eat, the blood flow, goes to the stomach to digest what you just eaten, and you need all the blood flow to all the vital parts, your kidneys, your brain, everything during the race, and your muscles. So you don't need any distractions. And I would recommend you just go with a protein or a pasta the night before and something light. I don't think you should. Now, hydration's okay. Liquids, clear liquids, electrolytes, those things 30 to 40 minutes before getting in the car, because you're gonna lose that through perspiration and your respiration. You're gonna lose moisture, but no solid foods, I would say, and nothing big.
Yeah.
A light, just enough to give you some calories and some energy. Like no sooner than 1 hour before your race.
Yeah. So most likely Rusty inhaled that sandwich. I know him. He inhaled the sandwich, and when the sandwich was right here, he probably started getting in the car.
Yeah.
And that sandwich was still barely in the stomach.
Well, Rusty told me, and so did Richard Petty told me, that he saw Rusty eating that sandwich, went to him and said, "Boy, you don't need to be doing that. You don't
wow.
need to be." And Richard, how prophetic was that? It was a prophecy. And of course, since that time, when everybody knew what happened with Rusty, you see, it's trial and error. You learn these things. A few years before, I was in Daytona, and I used to spend half a day as a doctor in the medical center at Daytona, in the Monaco Care Center, and the other half as a broadcaster. And we were in, it was a practice session for the Busch Series, the late model series and there was I won't mention his name, there was a guy who had won that race multiple times, who lost control coming in a tri-oval. His car goes head on into the wall right at the flag stand. And so this guy, we go down to the care center, and this one wasn't LD, by the way.
Oh, it wasn't, okay.
And so they bring him in, and they think that he's gone, and because they could see a lot of blood around his neck. It turns out what happened was he had a houndstooth chain on, wearing a chain around his neck, and when the car spun, that chain spun, and even though it was superficial, it cut him from here to here. It looked like someone had just taken a knife and cut his throat. So while we're working on him, he ended up being okay.
Now, when you watch these football games or these baseball games and you see these athletes with the necklaces, does it make you think about that?
It does, because and most of those necklaces are such, if they're pure gold, they're soft enough to break if someone grabs one. But I with a race car driver, back when they had the big houndstooth that were sharp on the edges, and this guy spun, I don't know if, because remember, we didn't have the compartments where the seats are so the driver could move around, and chances are he was moving one direction and another, and this chain cut him. So I remember while we're working on him and we're getting him resuscitated, I called over to the office and had Bill France Jr. come over, because I wanted him to walk in the care center and see this guy's neck. And I said, you need to tell drivers, no jewelry and no metal rings. Wear a rubber wedding ring, because if you hit something and that ring pinches, you're going to lose a finger.
Wow.
Because you can't get it off, you're going to lose blood supply, you're going to lose a finger. And also no jewelry. So he made a comment in the driver's meeting at that point in time. From that point on, the drivers shouldn't be wearing necklaces and jewelry out there on the racetrack. Wow. It can be dangerous.
So we could go on and on, because you've seen it all. Doc, let's end like this, something that we haven't talked about. I wish Barry Dotson was alive to this day.
I do too.
But you can tell this story. So why did Rusty wreck that day? So we know about that tire battle I talked about. And your memories are incredible right now. And we talked about it before we went on air here. So Rusty was on Hoosier tires that day. Why did that tire get cut down, and why did it send him into the wall?
Well, the speculation by the crew chief, by Barry and the team, after Rusty left to go and they went and looked at the car, speculation was that sidewall in those tires, it was a tire war, so the flexible tire with more grip was the way, that was faster. But with the G-force here, but Rusty came up off turn 4 and the sidewall flexed, and they're saying the sidewall flexed and allowed the right front tire to lean against the ball joint, and he just like it was like a giant can opener, just ripped it open.
Wow.
And the car just went down right up into the side of the concrete grandstands and just started tumbling.
Well, deep breath, everybody. That one has got me. I got goosebumps and I feel nauseated right now because I was there that day. But listen, everybody, we are in podcast form, and we always remind you that. Please like and subscribe here. Podcast form, that means we're on iTunes and Spotify. Listen to Doc Punch tell the story of how he saved Rusty's life on the way to work. And if it's still not enough, you can listen to Dr. Jerry Punch on the way home. Until then, until the next show, remember, little birdie tells me Danica Patrick's coming on, Kyle Busch, so we got him in the pipeline. Doc, let's say goodbye to everybody.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for watching and listening.